Hi, I'm Diane Dayton with Backstage at Berks at the 35th Annual Boscov's Berks Jazz Fest going on now through next Sunday. I'm with Grammy Award winner guitarist Paul Brown. Thanks for grabbing time before your show today with BPM.
Yeah, well, we're going to have some fun today.
I don't doubt that at all.
Yeah. Nice long set, 90 minutes.
Oh, that's going to be
great.
great.
We'll get to play everything we know.
That's good. Well, let's go back a little bit and talk a little bit more about you. So I understand at 5 you were playing the drums.
Yeah, I started as a drummer. My parents are both musicians. They're singers.
Okay.
And so there was always music in the house, but I started on drums. And I played drums, and I also played guitar, all through high school and in bands and trying to get signed. And it was always our dream to do that. And then when I got married at 23 years old, I kind of stopped playing drums and started working in the studio as an engineer producer.
Okay.
And I was still playing guitar, and so that was kind of the evolution. And I think I produced over 100 records before I ever made my own record, because that really wasn't part of the whole thing. But it sort of came around the back way.
But that's a lot of what you do, and you have worked with so many different people.
Yeah, I've been lucky. I've been working with my idols, Al Jarreau and George Benson and Patty Austin and Jeffrey Osborne and Luther Vandross and, Boney James and Kirk Whalum and, just great artists, Larry Carlton.
What is it about producing?
You just have to, everybody has to do exactly what you say.
Okay.
So, you get to be the boss.
Oh, you like that role, huh?
It's kind of like being a director of a film. You sort of have an overall.
Okay.
Back in the day, the producer was, the one in charge of, okay, I'm going to deliver the record, so I'm going to hire, the musicians, the studio, and make sure everything is cool and make sure everything's going on time. That was more of the role of the producer. But now it's become more write the songs, arrange the songs, engineer the songs, mix the song. Pretty much do everything.
Right.
And I enjoy doing all of it. I enjoy writing, which I do pretty much on a daily basis. And I love playing, and I love mixing. It's sort of second nature for me, and I think that's what's kept my productions a little bit more of an identity, is my mixing style.
Okay.
And so, they all work together.
How do you describe your mixing style?
It's more of an urban, because when I first started engineering, I was doing like Luther Vandross and Shy and other R&B groups, and I was actually mixing a Bobby Caldwell record, and this was in '89, and his manager asked me to go to Japan and mix the live sound in front of house and do some recording. I was like, okay. So I was over there for 2 months, and at that time I met Jim Oppenheim, who became Boney James. And he was in the band, and a couple other people that I still play with. Berto Valley was playing bass in that group, and Alan Hines, and all these guys that I've become friends with for 40 years now. And so Boney and I sort of got to know each other on that trip, and he knew that I worked with Luther, and he said, I really want you to produce an album for me. He had never done a record.
Oh.
And I said, well, so we became closer and closer as the tour went on. And I said, well, if you do a Luther Vandross record on saxophone and you change your name, I will produce your record, right? And so I hadn't done any jazz or smooth jazz or anything.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So it wasn't my forte. So when doing the record, it was very much like a Luther record. A lot of bottom end, a lot of booty. And right at that time, in '89, '90, it was Spyro Gyra, Kenny G, David Sanborn, Grover. That was basically the instrumental, people that were happening then.
Okay.
So when Boney came out, it was like, oh, this was really different at the time. And that sort of urban jazz, what they called it back then, became super popular. And he sold so many more records than most artists that were out at the time.
Wow.
He was selling platinum, which everybody's like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And he was on this little label that I was working for, and Warner Brothers called me after he sold like 200,000 records, and they're like, who's this kid? And I said, well, he's this and that, and this is what we're doing. They said, well, we want to sign him. So they actually bought the record from the little label and signed him, and we did 9 records for Warner Brothers.
Oh, wow.
So that's how I got into the smooth jazz thing, just sort of,
Okay.
you know, like that. But that mixing style, as I'm still working that kind of way, and a lot of people have tried to go there, and they're still going there. 30 years later, they're still
Wow.
kind of doing that, and people are still asking me, I want to sound like Boney James. Of course, I won't do that, but,
Right.
you know, so
Yeah.
that's kind of how that works.
Well, I think the Grammy Best Pop Instrumental Album for working with Norman Brown on Just Chillin'. Is that right?
Yeah. That was, I'd done about 8 records with Norman Brown as well, and got him signed to Warner Brothers as well. And then we did like 4 or 5 on Warner Brothers, and since I've done a few on Shawnee.
Okay.
With him. In fact, we just finished one.
Okay.
And yeah, I'd written that song, Just Chillin', and that was, you know, at that time, if you he won the Grammy for Best Contemporary Jazz Album, and if you were 50% producer, you also got a Grammy.
Okay.
I was 100% producer.
Okay.
And if you were 50% engineer, you got a Grammy, and I was 100% engineer. So I got those 2 Grammys
Oh, that's great.
for that. But I haven't got one as a guitarist yet. So.
Okay, well, to be coming. I love your sound on the guitar, Paul.
Well, the concept behind that was because of my production background, I really wanted it, you know, to like find something that was like my sound, my voice, if you will. And the concept was a classic, like Wes Montgomery, classic guitar sound, the archtop guitar, and very warm. And I play octaves with my thumb, but the track to be super urban, to make it different from that, you know. So that's kind of the combination, and it's worked well. And it's, you know, I can play on songs that aren't urban and still have that sound. It works good.
Yeah, well, I really enjoy listening to you play. And I can't wait to hear the 3 of you today for the brunch show. Brian Bromberg, you, and also Michael Paulo. There's such a chemistry.
Yeah, it's great. And we're all so different in terms of the way we play, like soloistically especially. Like Brian's just, you know, pyrotetrics, you know, and I'm just like, you know, sort of laid back.
Right.
And then Michael's, you know, is amazing. But we're all very different. So we're never stepping on each other in terms of style and everything.
Yeah.
It works out really great.
So what are we going to hear today?
Well, we have one record that's come out.
Okay.
For BPM. So we have, I think, 6 or 7 of those songs will be played, and then a couple of my hits, a couple of Brian's hits, and a couple of Michael's hits.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's all mixed up and it's all good, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, because we're playing each other's songs like BPM. So, like my song 24/7, that was my first single. You know.
Yes, okay.
And so, but we're playing it as BPM, so it's different sounding. You know.
Right.
And same thing with Brian's song, Coupe de Ville. You know, I'm playing a bunch of guitar in there that wasn't on the record, and there's saxophone, so it's nice.
Yeah. Well, I think what's really cool about what you guys have, you've got this friendship
Yeah, we do.
that really kind of wraps around
That was
it.
the whole concept. It was like, you know, because we're at the age where we really want to do things that we seriously enjoy and want to do and not need to do necessarily,
Yeah.
or you know, so it was part of the equation. It was, we had to find people that we got along with, because, you know, you're on stage for an hour and a half or whatever, but it's
Right.
those other 20 hours where you have to get along.
Yeah.
You know, it's really important.
Yeah.
And so far so good.
Yeah, we travel well together even through all of that too. Yeah, well, I can't wait to hear this. I'm going to bop down and check it out too. Thank you so much for taking time today, Paul. And since I have to hit off, I'm going to move over here and we're going to tell everybody to join us here at Berks Jazz Fest. And for tickets, you can go to berksjazzfest.com. We'll say goodbye, right, Paul? Okay.